Give him that back, Jordan. Do it like a silver cracker now.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is Morning Somewhere for October 28th, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns, sitting right over there. In 1996, she was Miss Island of Floating Trash. It's Ashley Burns, everybody. How you doing? How you doing, Ash?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad.
Busy weekend for people who don't talk about politics. Busy
Well, I was
weekend.
actually going to get a little housekeeping out of the way, which is that that here in sunny UK, we have ended British summertime. So this is something that we've
Weird.
been. It's very weird that we've been getting used to, and it's easier sometimes than it is others. But we just realized that daylight savings time ended this weekend here, but it hasn't ended in the US yet. So
When does it end in the U.S.?
this coming Sunday, November 3rd.
So today's podcast, you probably already noticed, I had a little there. Today's podcast was probably up to an hour late. I'm hoping it won't be more than half an hour late. Because now we have one less hour than you guys do in the U.S.
Right, which we sort of didn't realize until this morning. Bernie you were telling me that you saw a bunch of social media posts about it
thought we were
ending,
synced up.
and we thought it was so great that the daylight savings time ended everywhere at the same time this year. And I went and looked it up this morning. Nope, no, it didn't.
I got a theory on that horse shit. And it's the simple one would be I was just wrong. But here's my how big tech is working against me, right?
All right, let's talk big tech.
I think it realized by my location that I was a place where the hours had changed. And so it was serving me a bunch of old content about the time change and how it affects people. Because that's just evergreen, right, Ashley? Those jokes are hilarious every year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Twice a year sometimes.
Twice a year. Either that or you watched a couple of time change videos that were maybe British based. And so I thought, he wants to watch a bunch of videos about the time change and started serving you old videos from the U.S. time changes.
Yeah.
So it's definitely big tech's fault.
Has Puerto Rico gone through a time change? I just
That
want to
depends
say,
where it's floating.
I want
at
to
the
say one
moment.
thing about this because I'm curious. I want to ask you a question about this as well.
Okay.
So the host of Kill Tony, he hosted a rally at Madison Square Garden for Trump, which is interesting because, you like to say yes to things and you like to take gigs when they come up. That seems like an odd one. He told a joke during it that has become now the talking point of the weekend for politics. And regardless how you feel politically about all this, it was he called Puerto Rico a floating island of trash or something like that.
Something like that.
I got to say, though, one of the funniest comments I read about it was, you bombed when you bomb with a racist joke at a racist rally. But comedians love stories about bombing, right? Everybody loves the tale of where they came from, their what they overcame to get where they are.
Like everyone,
Everybody
they love
loves
to tell
those
the story
stories.
of the time they bombed so hard that the building basically collapsed around them.
You have to overcome something. It's in everybody's history. They have to have it. Comedians, it's bombing. They love to talk about how they bombed and the shitty clubs they played and stuff like that. He gets to walk into any green room for the rest of his life and nobody can touch this guy because he bombed so hard he changed the timeline potentially. No one's ever done that. I don't know how anyone could top that. If he changes the timeline with one bad joke, that's incredible.
It's like you dived on that grenade for everyone, huh?
I guess some guy in the future could tell a joke that makes a black hole or something like that, like it snuffs out a star. That's how you could top this. That would be amazing. Good. Now let me ask you this hypothetical question.
Oh no.
I don't want to get political here.
Okay.
I'm going to assume, do you like Hitler?
No.
Okay.
I would like to go on record as saying no.
Well, then
not a big fan.
This is a good hypothetical for you. You can go back in time.
Okay.
Okay. The only way you can change things is they ask you to host a rally right before Hitler is elected. And then you can you host it, and that's the only avenue that you've got in order to keep Hitler from rising to power. You get up there and you just you warm the crowd up, everyone's happy, and then you go, And we all love to eat babies, right? Kills Hitler's career. Hitler never happens. But for the rest of history, in the history books, you're the person. You'll be in the history books as the person who did this. Is it worth it to you?
Well, here's the amazing thing about that, right? Because Hitler's not going to be in the history books. Like, this is going to be
You're just an asshole.
right. Like you're just the asshole who made a joke about eating babies.
I always thought about that, about the Hitler, like people would go back in time and kill Hitler. You would just be somebody who killed somebody then for the rest of, like, because they don't get the rest of the perspective that we have from time.
Right,
You,
like some
changed all that.
time traveler turned up and just like killed a baby and then pieced out. What was that all about?
Oddly enough, this leads very nicely into a discussion about NCAA sports.
What?
It really does. Texas, the University of Texas is facing a weird problem where they keep beating teams.
Do they keep eating babies? Because you're right, that is a problem.
See, you brought it back around too much. It was just such a clean segue. It was such a clean segue. So, like, this weekend, Texas beat Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt was the 25th ranked team in the nation, which is, there's only top 25 teams, Ashley.
I mean, it's the house of Vanderbilt.
So it is likely then, Ashley, that the Vanderbilt team will now drop out of the top 25 because they just lost. Even though it was one of these weird things that you can only say in college football where it was a good loss. Texas had a disappointing win. That's a weird thing to say, but it was a disappointing win.
Okay.
So Texas has this weird thing.
Well, hold on, back up. Why? How?
They didn't beat them enough, or they didn't beat them in the right way. It's only an
okay.
NCAA sport.
So it's like stock markets, right? Where like a company will report their earnings and they're up, but they're not up enough.
You crushed it.
Okay.
We didn't beat the whisper numbers. That's exactly it.
Okay.
That's exactly. You nailed it.
We're selling the news.
Exactly. Way better metaphor than my Hitler eating babies thing. Way better. way better than our time traveling Nazi rally. Texas won, I think, 27-24, something like that. Should have beaten by more. But they were 25th ranked team in the nation. The problem is they're going to drop out, right? So Texas keeps beating teams that are really well ranked early in the season, but they've all disappeared from the top 25. Due in part to the fact that Texas beat them, right? So now Texas retroactively, like your speech at Hitler's rally, Ashley, now nobody has the perspective when you look at the people that they beat on their record. They weren't good. They weren't as good as they were at the time. Does that mean that's been wiped out of history?
It does make sense.
Right.
Yes.
It's like Texas got up and started telling a bunch of jokes about Puerto Rico or something. It's like that's the metaphor for Texas season. Also, the Dodgers won this weekend.
I was going to say, when you started talking about sports, I assumed you were going to give us an update on the World Series.
No, yeah, okay, so the Dodgers are up now 2-0 against the Yankees. They have to win 4 to win the World Series, Ashley.
Okay, so it's best of 7, so you have to win 4. Got it.
Best of 7. It's actually just first to 4. They won't play all 7 games. Whoever gets to 4 first, that's done.
Right, but everyone likes it if they get to 7. Because
the league loves
a good
it.
Fight.
Absolutely. No, I would love for the Dodgers to sweep. I doubt it'll happen though.
But I understand that the Japanese hero Ohtani was injured.
Yeah, no, Ohtani stole a base, which he is renowned for, and he hurt his shoulder. He got a subluxation. So
that doesn't sound like a real word.
That sounds like something you'd hear in a YouTube chiropractic video. But he hurt his shoulder, and they're expecting to have him back for Game 3. All right, that does it with my politics and sports.
Okay, well, there's other timely news that I think you'll appreciate, Bernie, and that is about Project Hail Mary, the movie, which has been filming in the UK. They just announced this weekend that they have wrapped principal filming, which is very exciting.
I'm very excited about that. What I'm not excited by is the fact that they said it's not going to come out until March of 2026.
Yeah, so
That
it's
sucks.
a really, really long wait. I don't know if they're giving themselves loads of time for reshoots or if this is a CG thing. My understanding is that a lot of this movie takes place in like a spaceship, right? Which seems like it would not be necessarily effects heavy, although I assume some of the characters in it might require some effects. But I thought they were doing a lot of like puppeteering and sort of practical effects on this. So I'm really confused by how far out the actual release is for this film.
It might just be they filmed it, and it might be sitting there done and polished for 6 months just because it feels like a spring movie, and they're not going to make spring in 2025.
This isn't a Warner Brothers picture, is it?
I don't know who's making this one. I have nothing negative to say.
I just don't want it to get the Acme treatment, that's all.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I doubt this would. People are really excited by it. Like, when was the last time you heard about, a sci-fi movie that just finished filming? And there were huge Reddit threads about this. I think this movie could do really well.
I think it could too. I mean, it's got a really good premise. Everyone is very excited because they like Andy Weir. The Martian was a great film adaptation. Gosling being on board, that's all really exciting. Lord and Miller being involved, also very exciting. Andy Weir is involved in the adaptation, so that's really promising. It seems like it's got a solid team behind it, and everyone is really excited. It's got a lot of potential, like as far as the premise goes. It's very interesting. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, and the guy who is directing it, or is it the guy who wrote it, did the adaptation, is going to be directing the new Matrix movies. Like, he's the only non-Wachowski who's going to go on and make the new Matrix movies.
Right, who's like taking on the next generation of the Matrix.
Notice I did say movies, not movie. Also came out that Rafe, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Rafe Fiennes came out and talked about the potential plot, which I'm not going to say, the potential plot for the 28 years later trilogy of movies. They're making a trilogy of the third movie. That's interesting.
Okay, so we're gonna break it up. We're gonna stop with the time jumps, and we're not gonna go 28 centuries later and 28 millennia later, etc.
I had to read it a couple times because it would complete the trilogy, but no, it unto itself will be a trilogy.
It's a trilogy that completes the trilogy. It's a trilogy.
It's so fucking meta. It's unbelievable.
If I may.
And we'll all be dead by the time it comes out. So it's so meta you won't believe it.
Also, other great news. I think you in particular, as an occasional frequent traveler, will appreciate, Bernie, is American Airlines is testing a new technology to automatically shame people who try to jump the line for boarding.
I fucking love this. I love this.
This is they're testing at some very specific airports at the moment. 3 airports in the U.S. But basically, what it does is if you try to board before your group, it'll automatically make like a loud announcement that's the equivalent of, "Sir, please step back. Your group is not boarding."
I fucking love this. Here's the weird thing about traveling. The only reason I care about status or whatever on the airlines is because now they've all cheaped out and they make you pay to do everything, like put a check bag in. But that just means everyone brings all of their shit into the cabin with them. And then you can't get an overhead bin or whatever it's called. What do they call it? Overhead space.
It's not as if people are attempting to take less stuff with them.
Right.
They're just trying to squish it all into an overhead sized bag.
They're wearing like 8 layers of clothes they don't need and everything else. Anything they can do to not put it in the cargo hold.
Right. Like there was a time, Bernie, where it was like a goal to be the last person on board. Right? Because when this overhead space didn't matter, you would just check your bag anyway. You didn't want to spend all the extra time on the plane.
No. In fact, there was a time where I would just sit there and board dead last. Like, wait until they'll do group 1, group 2, group 45 or whatever. And then they get to the point where they like call you by name over the airport PA. They're like, "This is your last chance, passenger Burns, to board." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll get on the plane now." Why not? Who cares? You got an assigned seat. I don't have to rush to be on the goddamn plane. Now I do, though, because if I don't, I don't have anywhere to put my backpack or anything like that.
Right. So everyone trying to get on the plane is in this frenzy now, right? This frenzy that if you don't get on the airplane as soon as humanly possible, you are going to lose that overhead space. They're going to make you check the bag, whatever it is. It's going to be terrible. And so everyone is extra stressed out and trying, just like crowding to get on the plane as quickly as possible, and like cutting lines or blocking lines just because they don't have ice in the back of their head, and they're all scrammed up as close as they can to the lines, and so they just block everyone behind them. So what we need is the automatic shamers. Hey, can you clear the line? I had a gate agent when I flew back from Austin in June. I was going through DFW for some reason. I didn't get the direct flight. It was this lady who sat like right in the opening of one of those little like back and forth little lanes that you go to, those little like rat runs they send you right,
through.
You've got your groups, like here's group 1 through 3, here's the line for group 3 through 6, etc.
This was just a lane for everybody, and they would call DFW's huge. And she just sat there dead in the middle of it. There's this weird thing with people in airports. They lose 100% of their spatial and situational awareness. They will block doorways. They will block everything. The real thing is they're not aware of anything that's going on behind them. If they can see the gate in front of them, the gate is not blocked. It's like, you're the one blocking the gate. We all have to pass through you, jackass. And somebody he called, like he said, he did the whole thing. Anonymous, courteous, of course, like, we're currently boarding group 1. If your group number has not been called, please stay in your seat and do not approach the gate until your gate number has been called. Thank you very much.
That was too subtle.
2 minutes go by. Hi, we have some passengers whose group has not been called, and they are blocking the gate. Please leave the entrance open so that other people can pass through when their group number is called. Thank you. Another minute goes by.
Oh, my God.
Miss, hello, you. He points at her. I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
He got done with the gentle parenting.
You need to move. And then she was like, nah. She was doing that like that, like,
Yeah.
like,
Me.
like I can't believe someone spoke to me directly and chastised me. But she was just like content to block everyone. People were literally like stepping over her bag and kept bumping her and stuff like that. And she just seemed like
I assume as well, she thought that they were so rude.
she was doing some kind of protest that meant something to her and didn't mean anything to anyone else.
All right, new theory.
She was the Chapel Roan of Gate 5D.
Just wait, in 4 years, as she sails through the line, she's going to remember that gate agent and be like, hey, you were very rude to me.
She will.
You owe me an apology.
What's going on with Chapel Roan? What's going on?
Well, the going theory is that this sort of explosion in popularity is difficult to adjust to.
Okay, but lots of people have done it, right? And we did predict that people would make the turn on her. She was using very modern language at the beginning, and she specifically went after fans first. Or that's the first time I heard about it. She was telling fans they weren't entitled to her time, and she didn't have to take a picture with them and everything. But now she's just like every event. Like she was at someone else's event this weekend and took that moment to like call out a photographer who was mean to her at another event or disrespected her or something like that. And now people are saying, hey, this isn't even your event. You know what I mean? They're not here for you. Now everyone's talking about you.
Yeah, unfortunately, the times that I hear about her the most right now tend to be these sort of things where she's calling someone out or whatever, and that's what we're hearing about. I'm not hearing about the insane crowd for her ACL set and so on and so forth.
That was a sea of people.
It was an absolute ocean of people. So like I can understand where dealing with all that is gonna put you in a weird headspace for a while.
What is the story with her at these live events and these incredible crowds that come to see her?
I will say she seems like an absolutely incredible performer. She was
Is that what
wearing
it is?
like,
Does she put on a crazy live show?
well, and also, have you seen like her get-ups? They're very theatrical. She describes herself as a female drag performer, and overall, it's quite the show. So I can definitely see the appeal there. But there's also, it's tricky and it's difficult, and when people start to make the turn, that's a difficult momentum to shift.
I'm sensing a licensing opportunity here. The automatic voice that chastises people for American Airlines.
Just put it in Chapel Roan's voice.
It should 100% be Chapel Roan. Who do you think you are? How dare you?
You're giving me trauma.
Is that what she sounds like?
That's what you would sound like as an automated voice, I'm sure. They got to make it different enough so Scarlett Johansson doesn't sue everybody. All right. Hey, while we're talking about Chapel Roan, she's Gen Z, right? And we're talking about a little bit about politics. Can I make one plea really quickly?
Okay.
I have this one page that I'm a little obsessed with. We are now over a week into early voting in the U.S., which we should stop calling it early voting. We should call it the voting period is what we should call it. And we should stop saying election day.
Right. That's the election day is deadline day.
Depending on where you live in the U.S., some places don't even have it at all. I recognize that. There is an election period, and it opens at different points in time. Usually about 2 weeks for most of the states that have it. In the U.S. right now, I'm just going to do a reverse subtraction. There are, from what I see on my chart here, there are 4 states. It is Missouri, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Alabama that do not have, it looks like, any kind of early voting, or at least it hasn't started yet. Of all the states in the U.S., though, if my math is correct, that's 46 other states. 47 if you count floating islands of trash. 43 million people have voted in the U.S. 43 million people. 75% of the votes that have been cast so far are from people 50 or older. Think about that. 50 or older.
You're one of those.
I'm one of those. I'm in there as well. I voted. I flew to a different country to vote. Not really, but I did vote while I was there. I did make sure I was there at that time since I was taking a trip anyway. Please, if you're under the age of 50, you gotta go vote. You got to. You can't be just, I mean, that's people in their 20s, people in their 30s, people in their 40s. Those three groups are 25% of the total votes. You got to vote. You have to vote.
Strong words online are not a vote.
You got to go vote. Please. I'm begging you. Please, you got to go vote. You got to vote.
Do it. Make the time.
Make the time. Make the time and go do it.
Make the time. Take the time.
All right. I do want to say thank you to our wonderful morning somewhere shout for today was from Dan Fedinition, longtime supporter of this podcast, Mr. Dan Fedinition.
Well, I'd also like to say a big thank you to Hunter Clark, Ryan Brome, and Spencer Scott for sponsoring this episode of our show at patreon.com/morning somewhere.
And thank you very much for the people who do sponsor us on Patreon. There was a video that was put up this weekend of how we captured our runner ducks.
Captured is a strong word.
Ashley and I herding the ducks into the pond.
Coaxed. Attracted.
So put up that's I think one of the first videos we've ever done besides the animation stuff.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, that we put up. So go check that out if you're part of the Patreon. All right, well that does it for us today, October 28th, 2024. We will be back to talk to you tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.